Hey everyone, Chris here from Koi Talk with my main man Ricky Stoddart.
Hey guys.
Here for our festive edition, Ricky.
Yeah, festive edition.
Festive rant, is that good title for this video?
I hope it's not a rant, but I'll see where it ends up.
Yeah, fair enough. Last video we had some pretty good feedback, so we're going to continue this series.
Makes sense.
I know Ricky enjoyed it, I enjoyed it, and it sounds like a lot of people at home enjoyed it, so hopefully this will give you a bit of a break from the family and get away and have a little bit of
I appreciate people taking time to listen to us rambling on about a load of shit for an hour.
Yeah, that's it. So
happy days.
Yeah, hopefully you'll find it of interest. So quick plug before we start. Obviously, magazine funds a lot of this video content. Obviously, Ricky and myself are heavily invested in this, and if you like what you see, please support it. You can follow the links below to purchase it or get involved. So yeah,
Subscribe. Price of a decent cup of coffee.
this is it. What can you get for £4 these days, mate?
Come on, guys. Dig deep.
So yeah, sales pitch over. So yeah, let's get into it, Rick. Probably first place to start after the week that's just been is the All Japan Koi Show.
Absolutely.
Obviously a little bit different this year.
Very different, very quiet one. Obviously needed to happen. It's such the koi shows in Japan are such a huge part of the industry. You know, they make breeders' reputations. It's the metric to sort of see where everyone's at, see how well everybody's doing, and I don't think, to be honest with you, that they carry the same sort of weight. They're important in every country, but you know, I've literally seen breeders, you know, come from nowhere, win a big award, and all of a sudden be on the map out there, and it's huge for them. It's massive. So needed to go ahead. Yeah,
and obviously the time of year, obviously leading up for us, you know, leading up to Christmas and trying to sort out shipments and things. Obviously, priority for a lot of the breeders was All Japan. All Japan.
It's an interesting point. I mean, people won't be aware, but obviously while on the run up to any of the big koi shows, trying to get any sense out of breeders out there is, we just give up, white flag out, and get on with our lives. Let them get on with it.
But you can understand, given to an extent, obviously, a lot of these farms, your point of contact is the breeder.
Yeah, completely.
So obviously, you know, having such an investment in the shows. Is double-edged sword, isn't it? You know, they've got to invest heavily, put a lot of time into it, make sure the fish are conditioned.
We've been working on these fish for such a long time, and don't want to waste the opportunity. So is what, and you got to remember, obviously the community, the breeder community, is generally who sets the shows up. So that's really the big part of it. It's not so much even the moving the fish around in the entrance. You know, it's a massive coming together of all them guys to put the show together with such efficiency. It's phenomenal to watch it. So, fair play to them all.
And the winner, Mariama.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, I think we've both been, if we delve into the history a little bit of the farm, you know, it sort of underpins a lot of the traits in modern day Kohaku, right back from the Kohaku lineage, the style of Benny from the farm. And obviously, I think, although previously won GC from the farm.
with a shower.
And then obviously, in recent years, I think it's nice, not that they get shared around, they win on merit, of course, but obviously to not be dominated by the big farm, so-called.
It's always nice to see one of the little guys do it.
I think so, yeah.
Which little guys, you can't really, you know, Mariama's an incredible breeder of some serious calibre, but when you consider the operations of Sakai and Dainichi in comparison, and Momotaro as well, he's a little guy, you know, in that respect. So, really pleased for him. You know, that farm is phenomenal. The fish itself, I mean, just wow. There's nothing you can really say in any negative sense about it.
I'm sure people will, Rick.
Yeah, probably, and that's something that drives me crazy. But for me, all you can see there is just wow, and credit to the breeder for creating such a lineage. You know, obviously he's played his part in it, albeit, would you say it's a small part? Possibly. He's produced it. He's had to create the bloodline capable of it. Obviously, that's no small task when you consider all that. But that fish has been took from a relatively young age, and then obviously purchased by Narita, and that guy's worked his magic on it. And was it 102? Was it? It came in at?
Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
So bonkers. Isn't
to look that good at that size, still just wow. It's incredible.
I remember probably on my first trip several years ago to Japan, and we've all seen 75, 80 centimetre fish.
Yeah.
And then when you see like 90 to 95, at that point, it kind of goes into a different, because people kind of go an extra 5, 10 centimetres. They kind of look at that, or they look at other things and go, that's not...
When you actually see the things cruising around, it's hard to actually adjust, because it's the volume as well. That's the bit that sort of gets missed, even through pictures, to be honest with you. You can sort of see it with that fish when you look at the pictures and you just see its head. That head's got that sort of like, you know, aggression, like,
years ago, we were looking at, I can't remember where we were. It might have been Nagami's place.
Yeah.
And he had this big...
the main pond.
The parent fish swimming around, and he had some little sort of jumbo tosai cruising around. I don't know why they're in there, I don't know. But the heads on these fish were bigger than the actual jumbo tosai swimming around, and it's at that point you just go, well, that fish's head.
Exactly.
And then you go, wow, it's just a different level.
It's phenomenal, you know, and it's. Yeah, all credit. Obviously, the lineage, again, coming back to it, Maruyama Kohaku, he is one of the original Dainichi Obi-Kai, which is like for those who don't know, it's like the club for breeders who have trained under Dainichi. But this is actually going back to, he's the generation that trained under the Minoru Mano, which is the father, the founder of the farm. So he's a really, really elite club. And I mean, these guys served a serious apprenticeship. You know, you mentioned Nagami. Nagami is one of the real prominent Dainichi Obi-Kai guys. You're talking Marido, Omasako. It's just like an A-list thing of breeders who were apprentices at one of the true masters of koi. So I remember Nagami when he told me. I think he served 16 years at Dainichi as a apprentice. You know, that's just another level.
When you kind of think of Nagami, you just think of quality, class.
Yeah.
And then to think he's done 16 years.
Yeah, under that. He'll no doubt probably train breeders while he was there.
Of course.
And that's before he took over the reins at the main farm.
Yeah.
But obviously, speaking of them two, obviously there's a lot of shared traits, because Dainichi's got the famous Kagura lineage, which is a phenomenal bloodline. Not many people have that strain. It's part of Nagami Kohaku. And it's a big part of Maruyama Kohaku as well, and that's where you talk of the Beni. That's where that Beni comes from. It's a complete and utter one-off. You know, there's no other lineage produced Beni even close to the level of that, and it's what underpins that Grand Champion. Yeah, great fish.
Yeah, and I think to get across to people as well. Obviously, one thing, getting a fish big. You know. There's big fish and then there's big fish. I mean, like I say, when you start seeing 90 cm fish, they're probably not as elusive as people make out, but from a price point of view, you won't see them too regularly in the UK.
Nope.
Certainly not in many dealerships, let's put it that way.
Nope.
Maybe single cut, Chagoi,
Karashi, maybe. That many of them at that size around,
but certainly not high-end Go Sankey, just from probably from a price perspective.
Yeah.
But the sheer volume of the fish is just phenomenal, and to have a fish of that size growing at that rate to retain that quality, and then go into a show and
the skill involved is on another level.
Yeah,
it really is.
I think that's to get across to people.
It's all right having the fish with the bloodlines
Yeah.
and the capability there. You've got to be able to squeeze that capability out of them. And like you say, even growing them big is one thing. You can grow fish easily. This is what I always tend to find, you know. I have people visit here and they'll look at the growth and they'll look at the greenhouse and go, if I had a greenhouse, this would be great. And then, you know, they're admiring the body volume of the fish. Well, you know, growing them long is easy.
Yeah.
You give them some heat and a bit of food, the things will fly. Growing them long with volume, and the volume that makes people sort of stand back and go, wow, that is a different ball game, because the amount of food required to do that is on another level. And when you're feeding at them kind of levels and that intensity, the whole thing becomes a lot riskier and a lot more complex. You know, you're sort of constantly treading a fine line of making the fish, you know, lose condition or get, I mean, it can quite easily, overfeeding to the extent we're talking about, can kill a fish quite quickly. You know, the whole setup, the whole picture dynamic has to change, and without that level of food, you don't get the growth with the volume. And that's the bit where you miss. I see big fish raised all the time, but they're not like we're talking. That impression when you see them at a meter and they're like, holy shit, that is just wow. It's the food. It's the food and getting everything else right to be, you know, to enable feeding at them kind of levels. And even the whole cycle of that, it's all right saying, you know, you need to feed X amount of food to get that. You've then got to keep the environment to stimulate the fish's appetite enough to want to eat that amount of food. It's different, very different ball
Complex.
game. Very different ball game. And it's, to be honest with you, only experience. I could write articles about doing it all day long. It's only really the experience of doing it and knowing where the lines are that really, you know, gets you, because you're pushing these things to the limit.
Yeah.
And then, so when you consider he's then done that and then kept it in such good condition, I really think a lot probably gets missed of just how much talent has gone into that. Nobody denies Narita's skill. Sorry, he's a legend, but I'm impressed. Mega job.
So for a lot of hobbyists at home, they've probably heard of the name Narita, Ryuka Narita.
Yeah.
Probably seen his mini on social media and that insane Arowana tank that he's got.
Yeah.
Oh, is it Arowana or Arapaima?
Arapaimas, yeah.
Oh, even more insane.
Concrete skulls.
Yeah. So, tell our viewers a little bit more about the setup, because just to give you a quick breakdown, a lot of the fish that go into the shows are reared and raised by Narita.
By Narita, but that's obviously a good point, actually. A lot of the fish that go into the shows are actually reared and raised by the breeders, handled by the breeders, done and entered. It's not, at the All Japan, you've mainly got breeders who are, you know, raising the fish, handling the fish, moving the fish, the whole lot, end to end. You know, and Narita being a dealer, he's doing that process as well. There's not many hobbyists just entering their own fish that's come from their pond and all the rest of it, which...
Is that because of the standards are so high, or...?
It's just how it's always been.
Yeah.
They do have hobbyist shows, but even the hobbyist shows, the fish are a lot of the time residing at the breeders. It's just a cultural thing that's accepted out there. Not so much over here, which I think could be an element that, again, could enhance things. Not coming onto that topic again, but
no,
you know, the way
we'll
it works.
Get onto that in a minute, Ricky.
The way it works out there is you know, it enhances the hobby for a lot of them. But yeah, Narita, I mean, I think it was 400 and some entrants he announced he had, and I think somewhere else I read there was 1,500 odd fish entered into his show. I mean, wow.
What spread?
Wow. And you think of the logistical operation of raising all of them fish, caring for them, getting them in that condition, getting them from Nagoya, where he's based, up to Niigata, which is, I think it's probably about a 6-hour drive, all in all. Phenomenal. Really is. Hats off to him. And yeah, the guy, undisputably, although I'd like to think I'm hot on his heels, is the number one dealer in the world, and yeah, guy to be admired for any koi nut, really.
Yeah, and it's across the board, isn't it? It's not just sort of he gets involved in anything, variety wise.
Yeah, again, that's true. You know, for myself, I never like to pigeonhole. I never have.
No.
I've always sort of thought, as a true koi dealer of wanting to be at that kind of level, you've got to appreciate and understand all varieties. There's no excuse for, I don't like this, I don't like that. You need to know what's going on with everything to truly be, you know, at the top of the game.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's easy to talk a talk, isn't it? But obviously walking it is a different...
Yeah.
And I guess most years you get quite a bit of activity online, you know, keyboard warriors, call them what you will. I remember a couple of years ago when Showa won and basically everyone in the UK said, oh, it's got a bent head, and you're kind of thinking, well, I don't think I couldn't be bothered to get involved in the whole debate about it, but you kind of sitting there from afar, obviously, yeah. Take it away, Rick.
That topic, that for me, and this is what I really do get quite uppity about this, to be honest, because again, I think it comes down to a cultural thing more than anything, which is part of the problem, you know. But it's when I look at fish and when I see, you know, how the hobby works in Japan, when I'm in the breeder's presence and we're admiring a fish, all you're seeing is all the positives first, just the quality, the impression, everything, not the small, or its head's bent. I think our cultural way is to go for the negatives first, and it just makes everything so difficult.
Yeah, makes the appreciation harder.
It suffocates the hobby. There's very, very few completely what you'd call perfect fish out there, and you know, the other things you have to bear in mind is you can quite easily, pictures when you're looking at them, can quite easily make a fish look bent just at the slight angle you've caught it at. You know, unless someone's photoshopping the hell out of them, it's very difficult, you know, from the amount you take and get that perfect straight fish there in your picture without driving yourself completely mental.
Yeah, that's where the grey hair and the beard comes from, mate.
Yeah, but so I don't lie. I think we did a video, didn't we, at the koi show, and Alan Tate said it's koi appreciation, not koi assassination.
Yeah,
and I think to really make enhancements into this hobby up to the highest level, you've really got to open your mind and change the way you look at them and think about fish, because unless you have got the pockets enough to go out and buy what little bit of perfection is out there, you're making compromises constantly, and you've got to adjust your mindset to be able to look. It's when you cannot look beyond these negatives.
The red eye, or
your funnel for what you can buy is getting narrower and narrower and narrower, and it just makes it nearly impossible. But what it also does is it stops you buying, it stops you finding the true bargains that are out there. There's loads of them, you know, completely I mean, this is, for me, getting into realms of, you know, my business and the way I operate and make money with koi wholesale is from buying shit from the breeders. To be completely blunt about it, you know, it's buying big batches of Tosai that they have rejected because they're keeping their tatty going. But you have to buy into the mindsets of, you know, I'm thinking their mindset is, oh, it's not what they've rejected. You know, I had it with a customer just late about some fish I was releasing. He says, well, you're going to have picked all the best ones out. You know, it's a batch of 1,000 fish. I've got 200. And it's 200 what I'm looking for long term. The rest of the fish are fantastic. So the mindset is you're not going to buy them because I've picked 200 of them out. So what's in the fish I've rejected? There's still, I know, plenty of really good fish in there, but my space is limited.
Yeah.
And what I'm aiming to do with them fish is a very different thing. So straight away, mindset's closed off because I'm rejected them. Well, my mindset wasn't closed off when I was buying them, knowing that 1,000 fish had been rejected by the breeder from fuck knows how many that he's bred and harvested into the fish house. So if we look back, take that back to the concept probably with the Issa Showa from this year, you know, what was it, 800 fish I had in altogether. Of, to be frank about it, all 800 fish had been rejected at a pretty early stage because I bought them, October time, and they came, they'd have been harvested in September. So it's pretty much the first selection from harvest, but you have to consider them fish have probably been through 4 to 5 rounds of selection from spawning. Yeah. So already a lot of real garbage is gone. What gets hired is pretty good. So my mindset when I'm looking at them fish is not that, oh, I need to buy the best. I'm not going to buy them because I'm going to try and buy the best fish at a later time that are stupid money. chances most of the time are still the same.
Yeah.
Luckily, I can facilitate bringing in the big numbers. So my mentality is, I think, right, koi is a numbers game, complete and utter numbers game. You need to get your head around that from day one, if you're trying to, unless you're at that elite level where you buy in fish
the finished article. Yeah.
When you've got the money to buy something like that, happy days. Different game. But the fun for me and the bit of the skill element is trying to get something that could even half look like that from the stuff that gets rejected and thrown away, if you like. So yeah, I buy this big batch of this to show her 800 fish, and it's all stuff that's been rejected. And because of how I've learnt to appreciate koi and look at koi, you've got to be very loose with your selection. I think the issue is we're getting people look at very narrow vision at, that's not the one right now. These fish were 6 months old when I got them. Yace out of the 20 to 25 cm, I think. So we're looking at them, and very loose. I've got 800 fish. I do the next selection, I probably take it down to 400. And at that point, what I'm looking at is, that can possibly do it, that can possibly do it. Not, that's going to guarantee to make me a really good 80 centimetre fish in 5 years' time. Nobody. You can probably get the odd one every now and again where the fish is that good, you can probably see, that's going to do it. There's still a lot that's got to happen. We get that selection done, and then another. So in the end, 800 fish, I've ended up with, 19 pretty, I think by any standard, would say high quality Nisai. They're superb. When people get to see them, they'll also appreciate how good those fish actually are.
Well, I remember when, we like to show the fish off here at Koi Wholesale, and when the customers come here, it's always nice to demonstrate what you've achieved in the year. And question that a few of the dealers have said to me is that, have the breeders missed this fish? What's the catch, sort of thing. I think, in honesty, you sort of already mentioned it, there's only so much space. You can't raise everything.
No. And
obviously, the more you raise the fish, the more time and money you invest in them. So it is really their vision of the fish. This so-called rejected,
but it's
it's relative, isn't it?
Yeah. But then from our side, it's understanding what's happening with them fish. Like I say, I cannot be too rigorous. So getting to them 18, 19 fish that we've got, off the top of my head, I think I've done a further 4 selections on that batch of fish to eventually get to that point. And that's only from arriving in January to now, basically.
Yeah, so it's a year's work,
that's
basically.
Four selections in there, that's a lot. But it's having to be open-minded with them fishing. That could do that. I'm not definitively saying that fish at that selection I'm at is going to do what I need it to do.
Yeah, sure.
And it's not, if I assassinated every little thing, out there with them fish that people do assassinate them for, we'd have probably ended up with nothing. And all them now 18, 19 fish that are superb and look great would have been swimming around randomly somewhere. Someone else would have got the bargain. And this is the koi appreciation thing really fascinates me. But I think for people to truly, and to be honest, I think we've been speaking about projects, but I think from the Koi Talk perspective, it's something we're really going to get behind, is just trying to re-educate the way of looking at stuff to really enhance the hobby and allow people to start. For me, I'm quite passionate about it, allowing people to get more bang for their buck. Stop missing fish. It's happened all the time over the past, when I used to work in my dad's shop, there'd be customers and there'd be little fish every now and again. I'd say, take that, try that. It's just knowing it's probably going to do something. But, we're talking fish that are under £100. I still remember one of them, actually, great thing. It was a customer's fish. He literally called it the 40-pounder, which when you see it at the end of it, it rubbed a lot of salt in the wound. So we might actually be able to pull the picture out. It got featured on the cover of Koi magazine at the time. That's how good it ended up looking. It was a little Sakazumi Koraku. It was £40. He took it at about 18 cm, raised it up into 60s, probably getting on for 70 centimetre, and it was an absolute corker. And that was one of them moments. He didn't really see it. I says, take that. It's the same customer actually as well, with a Yamamatsu Koraku. Bit dearer fish, I think it was about 300 quid at time, and it looked absolutely nothing. And again, it was one of them. take that. And because he'd already had a couple of results and
Yeah.
was trusting, not a fish he was picking at all. You sort of see him in his face, and it's like, yeah, go on, I'll try it. Again, I know I've got the pictures of that, so we'll pull them up and get them
cool.
in video, because from what that was to what it raised to, absolute bargain, because you're looking at the finished fish now and expecting that to be a 2-3 gram fish in a dealer's easy. So that's what I'm getting about. It's opening up your mindset, even to just trusting the dealer you're working with a little bit more. Now, I'm not for 1 minute saying you should trust every dealer, because not all of them are completely, you know, clued up like that, but a lot of them have got typically more experience than the koi keepers they're supplying to. So, you know, if you do know they're pretty into it, and there's, you know, you've got that relationship and trust in the seat, we should probably give that a shot. Give it a shot. Worst case, you know, it goes to shit a bit. I'm not talking about buying crazy money fish here. I'm talking about taking punts on relatively cheap stuff. But yeah, do it, because you're going to learn from it. It's the way I've learned. Yes, time in Japan with breeders, what I've done has helped refine the process. But typically, the bulk of my learning has come from the fish houses here. You know, bringing in batches of fish from breeders every year, growing them, raising them, thinking, yeah, that should do that, could do that. What bit of knowledge I had about the bloodline at the time, and then actually doing it and seeing what happens. You know, there's a reason now there's certain, you know, goshki lineages that I'll stay well away from, because I'll know what they do, and more specifically, I'll know what they're doing in our water as opposed to what they'll do in Japan as well. And all this stuff, you can't learn it. You know, I could literally, there was particular goshkis, I don't want to mention the name because we don't want to be beating down anybody, because likewise, that same goshki breeder is producing stunning specimens in Japan that were in top honours constantly. I got them back here. I mean, the batch of fish was, it was one of them horror stories, really. I think it was about 1,000 or so fish. It was a crazy deal on these little Tosai goshkis, and, you know, high level. And they were, when they turned up, I was excited by them. Grew them on, and I think come September, they'd done phenomenal. The net of fish looked insane. Started cooling it off, typically a time when sumi will start coming up. So they looked, obviously they've gone the really light grey colour through the summer. In the heat, start cooling it off, started darkening. I thought, oh great, I've got a mint pond of Kuro goshkis here. Happy days. Got to about November, and I think that's when I started to slowly weep. And then come December, come January, the sumi just didn't stop.
Too powerful.
And they looked like an absolute bag of shites by sort of like end of January. And
Yeah.
the little ones that hadn't been grown on had tarnished a lot faster. And that was a huge, the amount of money laid out there in that batch of fish. I mean, you're talking in excess of 20 grand in one batch of fish. You know, that's the sort of learning gambles I take, and it didn't pay off. There was considerable losses on them. Never do it again. But that's, again, no testament. I now know those fish are certainly not suited to my water, and I wouldn't ever be buying them and then knowingly recommending them, because I know there's a chance that could happen in the UK. There might be parts of the UK where it doesn't happen.
It's more stable,
but typically, I know it's happened. It's a big risk in them fish, so you stay away from it. And I would have never known that had I not bought that, took that risk, brought them back, and did everything I did with them. So based on how they are in Japan, happy days, fill your boots.
Yeah.
Over here, no.
Leave them in Japan.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
So there was a few UK hobbyists that took awards over there as well, which is always nice to see the British flag being flown.
Pretty serious awards.
Yeah. So, I mean, we spoke about the shows last time.
Yep.
And this leads me on to our next sort of topic of discussion. Obviously, the last video that we did, we never really set out Koi Talk to sort of become people's mates, but more to educate and unpick a lot of untruths that are out there.
Yep.
And try and help people, basically.
Completely.
Obviously, learn from mistakes that have been made, educate people, financial mistakes that have been made, so that people are more fulfilled in the hobby. There's nothing worse than a demotivated hobbyist. I mean, there's probably a lot of you out there that have had moments in the hobby where they've just gone, is it? I can't be bothered, but is it worth it? Is the high worth the pain sort of thing?
Yeah.
But then it always comes back round when people get it right. It's their pride and joy. It's the thing that they go to when they come back from work. It's the place that they go to before they go to work. It's just a lifestyle. I don't know whether it's a Western mentality, but we certainly look at things in a bit of a different way. And obviously, with the power of social media these days, you got a little bit of, is it fair to say, flack, a little bit of animosity, some challenges on a video that you did the other week about the golden corn Taniguchi fish.
Oh yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Mindset,
obviously, I guess
I
guess obviously being on the other side of the fence, we look at things differently, but it comes from a perspective of, I guess
narrow-minded thinking is the bit that really gets my goat, to be honest with you.
That's probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah. Let's face it, right? You talk about social media, that's a different beast in itself. Yeah, there's so much negativity out there on social media, so much untruths, bullshit, people, false reality, a lot of false reality, people putting forward unrealistic stuff. You can't. It's quite easy to get sucked into the bubble of all that. But the bit that scares me, and the whole reason behind Koito, is wanting to bring that enhancement to people's hobby and teach them the way of which I love koi. I mean, you talk about people enjoying it. I cannot. To understand my level of obsession for what I do and this and passion for it, I literally live it. Since 10 years old.
Yeah.
21 years now. Been doing this. It's literally my every other thought, if not every thought, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's truly, it's mental. So, and for me, I only see it's just enjoyment. It's just sheer enjoyment and love of it, and I'd like people to get in that. I've seen the hobby done in many ways, like you say, but I've seen people, get sucked over to the dark side, if you like, where they've got sucked into circles where it is all about koi assassination and koi shows and trying to tick boxes. And it all becomes so unrealistic, trying to chase something that's unachievable, and an hobby being only about 3 varieties. I mean, wow! Just look at what's out there for koi. The varieties and the constant new stream of stuff. I'm all for evolution, forward thinking, moving things on.
Yep.
Don't like to live in the past too much. I think if it was left to certain groups of people in our koi world, I don't know where it'd actually end up. There certainly would be no progression. I think probably more regression, trying to drag it back to what it used to be, rather than moving it forward. But I think the whole thing, like you said, between what I wanted to achieve with Koi Talk is to share this experience, enlighten people to the realities, teach people to be able to do more with their money, keep things simple. I see things get so complicated and make the hobby a total fucking pain in the arse, which it isn't. I've seen koi keepers in the past so stressed and lost with one pond of 18 fish, and thinking I'm sat here with 60 ponds, tens of thousands of fish, and not an eighth of the stress that they're going through. And then I look at what they're doing and think, holy shit, who's sent you in that direction? Strip it all away. Let's just keep it simple and keep it easy, and obviously finding what drives people. But you talk about obviously the golden corn. There's this whole mentality of, I think that sort of went in several different directions there. But I mean, one, the variety, like it or love it, this hobby is on levels. The comments that were got came from hobbyists who's on the higher end of the spectrum. Even to mention the comment that it's you go spending $4,000 on a fish. Hello, the amount of people spending $4,000 on a fish is that, and they're not the people that make the hobby tick. To be honest with you, it's just how it is. They're not the people that make it tick. The people that make it tick are the grassroots, the people coming into it at the mid-level, who are into all sorts, you know. You take the flip, the bulk of the industry right now doesn't give a shit about Go Sankey, you know, which is the bit that drives a lot of this higher end spending. It always has to be Go Sankey or fucking wow. It just doesn't, it's not exciting. There's a whole bigger world out there, you know, but the majority of this hobby is enjoying the fascination of koi. You know, the beauty of goshki, the beauty of other varieties and what them varieties actually bring to the table other than just, you know, what Go Sankey brings to the table. If that's what you're into, fair play.
Yeah,
but likewise, if you're not, appreciate there's a whole massive other world out there that is enjoying the likes of a golden corn. If it wasn't for breeders, you know, coming forward and being creative and thinking we're going to try and make something new here that keeps them people interested, it would just stagnate. Nothing had ever changed, nothing had progressed. You don't even know, you know, the creation of golden corn, where's that going to lead to? What other breeder's going to pick that up and come up with something else? And I'm sure
it will happen.
Yeah, I'm sure for years it's always been the same, you know. Kikukuryu was actually a variety that, as I was getting into it all them years ago, had just been created by Kaze and Aoki, and you know, I weren't as in the circles then, so I wouldn't have really seen what was going off. But no doubt there'll have been people saying the same things back then about Kikukuryu. You know, what the hell's this? Look at them now. You know, they're pretty much one of the big varieties in koi, full stop. And yeah, if they'd have listened to the external voices back then, it disappeared and wouldn't have been here today. So yeah, hopefully people buy into what we're doing, because I really want to get to a point where, you know, we're really sharing the true sort of fascination of koi with people to its fullest extent, and not all this negativity that's out there and that, say, small bubbles, narrow-minded thinking. It all just leads to a shitty experience of koi keeping, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if you were a novice, for example, and you're trying to pick a side, you know, what route do I go down? You've got a lot of the narratives online that all dealers are crooks.
Yeah.
And then you've then got this other narrative that it's a load of bullshit and the breeders don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well,
so if you were potentially interested, that paints a pretty bleak picture.
You can you can very quickly get led into thinking that you've got to have thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds sat in bank to keep koi. Not true, in the slightest. You can very quickly think you can't buy any good koi unless you're spending thousands of pounds. Absolutely not true. You just need to learn how to do it and do it properly. And you just got to be careful who you associate with, because if you unfortunately get caught up in one of these bubbles, it can really, really ruin things for you. And I'm not daft. It's just the way the world works. But,
whether it be cars or whatever, I'm sure it happens in every hobby.
When you're online, I'd just say pick your circles sort of closely, because, you know, it's all right as well. I see a lot of information and comments get made without the full understanding and knowledge of what comes in. You know, we speak about the golden corn thing again. You know, part of the comment back to that was basically a slight on the breeder, that he's selling something that he doesn't know how it's going to turn out. So that one blew my mind, to be honest, because we're talking golden corn has just come to market in mass production this year, and it has sort of exploded. A lot of people don't know about them yet, really. When you actually look at what he's done, Taniguchi, because it's only where they come from, it's his creation, I sit back and think, you know, a comment like that, the guy doesn't know what he's selling. He's created these things. He's not just spawned them this year and put them to market. I was there, I think it was certainly 3 or 4 years ago, buying Asagi from him. And I remember in the pond then, the Asagi, there was these weird Kawarigoi looking things, which now I know were golden corn swimming around. I asked him to buy them. He said no. I asked him what they were. He just said, Kawarigoi. And the Asagi were for sale, because he knew the Asagi. You could see it was an Asagi.
Yeah.
He explained to me that the lineage, it was from 105 centimetre Chagoi that he's got, and I was like, fucking hell, that's impressive. You produced a Asagi from that. Fair play. And he got them, and the things grew like stink. They were impressive. But the rest of it was he wasn't letting me near them other fish in that pond. Not a chance.
Reason being?
Well, he was still experimenting. And then you look back and think, well, you know, Golden Corn's come about, and the fish that we all sort of know, the one owned by Max Koi Farm, was a show winner at about 4 years old, I think, something like that.
Yeah, I think
it's
so,
not
yeah.
just come out of fresh air, you know. So all of a sudden, you know for a fact there's 3 or 4 generations of breeding gone into this, and over them 3 or 4 years, he's going to have been refining the process, selecting the fish, seeing what they do, seeing what sort of results you get, to the point where, boom, they go mass market. How does he not know what they're going to turn out like? The other part of not knowing, yes, he doesn't truly know how it's going to end up. Who does with any koi variety? All we learn is, as much as possible, what it's going to do. There's no guarantees.
But they're probably
You know
priced
that.
accordingly as well, Rick. 'Cause this
And
is not
priced
as if like
accordingly.
these are.
No,
I mean,
not-
his top examples. Fair enough. They're probably not. Probably going to stay in Japan.
That's the same with any koi.
But obviously, the examples that come to the UK, from a business, let's break this down into a business perspective. You create a product that has demand. You market it well.
Yeah.
It goes to market. It becomes popular.
But let's actually look at the positive mindset to this that's happened. You know, one, he's created something that we don't know how they're going to turn out. That's the bit, as a koi person, I've enjoyed the most this year. I've had to learn. It's pitted me to my skills, because I'm trying to, obviously, I bought a batch of however many it was, and out of them, I couldn't keep them all. I've had to try and figure out, from what I knew about, you know, what they could do, which fish were the right ones to keep, and do it, and hope that I don't give all good ones away. I've had to learn that, and that's been challenging. It's been fun, and now it's actually starting to happen how I anticipated it would with a lot of them
comes
fish.
to fruition. Yeah.
That's even more rewarding. So I thought, yeah, kind of got that one right, and I'm seeing now, even just after 6 months, the development pattern. Yeah, again, I don't know how they're truly going to turn out, but that for me is part of the fun. You know, I don't really know what I'm getting. Komonryu I've been saying for decades.
Yeah.
The amount of fucking white Komonryu that I've bought and think, oh, I really hope that Sumi's going to come, or a little bit's come and I've got carried away and the rest of it's never come. It is literally part of the fun. And from the feedback I've had from all the people that's bought all the ones I've had and sold so far, is that exact part. They're enjoying the fact they don't know what they're getting, seeing any change or progression and happening. It's brought a lot of enjoyment to a lot of koi keepers, not just in the UK, around the world. And that for me is it's just the passion of it. It's what you love. You look at it from the other positive side, bravo to Taniguchi. You know, what of the vision the guys had to sit there and think, I quite think that'd be quite cool, I'm going to try and create that. And then actually doing it, you know, all that investment is put in, and all over what, 4, 5 years, whatever he's been doing it, of
And giving up much needed space for
that it had been
your bread and butter.
Is Kwaku and Sankey. You know, yeah, it's an earner for him every year. But even look at it back to him, his enjoyment of koi has gone, no, sod that. Yeah, that earns me money, but I want to do this because that's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy doing that. And then the vision and the foresight. I mean, Kanoko is a big part of Golden Corn.
Yeah.
To actually stabilise something that's been random in koi for generations of them, wow. Just wow. Kanoko is, and he literally has stabilised it, because from what I'm seeing is it ends up popping up all over them. Not all of them, admittedly, but again, you say that with absolutely all koi. You know, Shiro Utsuri, one of my other obsessions. Again, I think it's what keeps me hooked into them, because it's the continuous sort of not knowing. It's the gamble and the fun and the chase of it every year. You know, if you're at a point, yeah, where every purchase has got to matter, that's great. You know, nice one, enjoy your hobby. You know, you've got to buy a fish that's got very, very little risk involved, and you know exactly what's going to pan out with it. If that's for you, great, and if you can afford to do that,
Yeah, happy
great.
days. Yeah.
But likewise, I think the mass hobby, that's not what is represented with the sort of wider hobby. And yeah, I mean, Shiro's, it's chasing that constant dream. You look at the pond of them I've got sat here at minute, you know, all selected, changing daily at the minute, and it's just fun. It's fun to watch them, not knowing what's coming, and it really does refine your skills as well. So yeah, that's sort of, that has got me ranting a bit, that one, to be fair.
I knew it was going to happen, mate.
But it's just that bit for me, you know. It's that can show the two how very quickly you can narrow this fascinating hobby down to, you know, bump, where everything else is seen as a negative or a rip-off or a con or shit or someone having your pants down, to what's actually out there and available. It's amazing. You know,
I think
when you open your mind up to what is there, you've got a lot more enjoyment to come.
Yeah, I think going back to Taniguchi again, obviously it's quite a modern day thinking breeder.
Completely.
Obviously, we've sort of had discussions before about how the mindset of the genetics, the pairing, and the vision that he's got of maybe fast tracking his approach to breeding koi.
In what way?
In a sense that rather than taking decades, the process is speeding up
It's
because
just,
of the
he's a talented guy.
the mindset undertaken when selecting parent fish.
Yeah,
pairing
it's
genetics.
always something I've respected him for, to be honest
I
with
mean,
you.
the fish grow like sting as well, don't they? I mean, they've absolutely flown. And obviously, that'd be the Asagi influence, one would imagine.
Yeah, big part, but obviously chucking an 105 centimetre chagoy at mix is probably going to do
That would help as well.
a fair bit as well. And it's just that's off to him again. And I'm just frustrated, you know, when you've got someone as a prominent sort of figure in the koi industry putting that kind of thinking and vocalness out there. You know, I spend a lot of time at Taniguchi, you know, understanding what's going on at the farm, doing business with him, knowing what's coming and what shit he's got going on. I'd love to know where the other information came from, because my guess it's from afar. So, yeah, there we go. That's that one, really. But open-mindedness is a big part for me of getting the most from the koi keeping hobby. You know, and I'd just say, yeah, just in life in general, I think that's the sort of people I keep around me.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and that sort of narrow-minded, closed-off thinking is not for me. So, yeah, there we go.
Fair enough. Next topic of discussion.
But likewise, everyone's entitled to an opinion.
Yeah, of course.
So,
yeah, I mean, we're not getting away from that fact. It's
No.
just obviously
No.
I think I said it in the covering letter of the Christmas issue. You know, for years we've sort of decided not to get involved in the politic of it all. Now we've got our own platform.
Yeah, that was the idea, weren't it?
You know, we shan't be dragged into bum fights online or anything like that. But if we want to say something,
yeah, we've got the platform.
We've got the platform to do it.
Want to
and,
listen? Happy days.
Yeah, if you don't, yeah, Channel 4's on.
Yeah, class.
So we've spoken and sweated and panicked a little bit in over probably the last 2 years, because the buying patterns in Japan is shifting a little bit, to say the least. This year more so than ever.
Yep.
How do you envisage next season? I think probably the higher end koi are always going to be good to go to a degree.
They are what they are. There's don't get still competitive buying them, because you know the very best ones.
Yep.
People who are buying them, you know, there's only ever so many and people want them. So it is a problem across everything, admittedly. But yeah, I mean, this is a great insight for you guys, because you don't really see, I suppose, what's going on in getting koi out to you, out to the market every year.
Yeah, this is where I wanted to touch on, just to sort of enlighten hobby. You know, some people say, "I'll go to the dealers, I buy a fish, I go home, happy days."
Yep.
There's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah.
And
So the shifting pattern, and this isn't over just the past couple of years, this has been over a long time since sort of the market in Asia has risen. So the whole market really is driven by Tosai, the year-old fish. It's the fascination because of that dream, buying something, growing it on, raising it, the fun and enjoyment of that. So yeah, demand, and that's no different. That's everywhere in the world, regardless of whether the Asian market for the real high-end stuff is booming as well. But for the small stuff, it's crazy. So Japan is just this one place on the map that's producing all these koi that supply all this demand all over the world. And yeah, there's not just constant ends of it. The Japanese aren't the people who will all of a sudden think, wow, there's a lot of demand here at the minute. I'm going to, keep a good proportion of that stuff I'd normally throw away and sell it this year. It's not what they're about, because their focus is always quality. And there's only ever so much space, so much they can keep. A certain speed they can expand and keep building fish houses and producing more fish. So yeah, it's the numbers, don't drastically change every year, and it's quite disproportionate to I think the speed at which it's growing in some areas, and demand for that small fish is happening. So we're winding back to when I sort of started in koi in general, and probably when you started with Jack Koi Co and Perfect Aquatics. The general sort of thing was, it got to, we're winding way back, it got to March, and you thought, right, I'm going to get my trip to Japan, it's tow-sai season, you start happy days. And nothing really did ever start until about March onwards. To give you an idea, or you guys an idea where that's got to now, my tow-sai business starts pretty much... it starts seriously in September, but there's legwork going into it sort of way before then. And the big thing is, imagine a breeder's perspective. They've generally always got more demand than they have fish. Some breeders know every fish, the minute it's hatched and successfully harvested, it's sold. That is, what a position. It's just phenomenal. But unfortunately, what that can also do is, obviously, it can change your reality a little bit, because again, they're living in bubbles. This is literally it. Every fish they've produced, they know is sold, gone, done. The minute they want to sell it, it's there, it's gone. So what it does, it allows them to dictate terms a little bit when they want to.
Yeah.
So it's a concept I've been trying to get through to my customers just to late, is we're in a market at the minute where, as a buyer, we have to make ourselves attractive buyers. Seems a crazy concept, the old sort of cultural concept of customers always right, customers the king. In my world with koi at the minute, that's not quite how that happens.
The supplier is dictated.
Pretty much. So that shift back from, like I say, you're talking, used to be sort of March and now to then, but also what's happening is as well, now we're in a situation, certainly this year it seems to be, some breeders are pretty much saying it's, well, whoever's shipping first is the person who gets them first. There's no, booking your fish, buying or shipping whenever, because we want them out of the way. So it's just having to change the whole scene to handle it. And there's always fish. This is something I have to stress. You can always get fish. It's just the key stuff.
Yeah.
The Shinoda Hiyotsuri, he's a great example. We're only talking 3 varieties, all of which he produces, he's a specialist in, and there's mass demand for him. The Hiyotsuri in particular have gone mental in the past 4 or 5 years. I've managed this year to get the tow-sai from him. It took a lot of work, but got 1,000 pieces, which came in at the very start of October. Not long after being
way out of
harvested,
season.
shipped here. The reason I've had to do that is because you look at what Asia's doing, and this is what's stopping our market from getting stuff like that. The big branded stuff, the interesting stuff, is that they are buying that and shipping it, because most of the countries out there are always warm.
Yeah.
They're not paying for heating. The ponds they've just got outside are warm. It's all great. So they can condition them fish, get them shipped, settled, happy days, and they buy in big numbers. They really do buy in big numbers. So really had to up the game and adjust here in order to compensate for that and allow us to get them fish into the country, so UK hobbyists can actually enjoy the likes of a Shinoda Hiyotsuri being a little one. It's all right when they're this high. Yes, it's still competitive, you can get them, but there's a mass price difference.
Yeah.
Opposed to the small Hiyotsuri, which might be, 30, 40 quid in a shop, to the 2-year-old one that might be 300 or 400 as a starting price. This is why the tow-sai business is crazy.
Yeah.
And really had to adapt. And you think, first I had to adapt, so I've got to we put the mass heating system in last year to be able to bring the fish in, condition them and get them right. But then you look at the logistics of it, I've only got so much water space, so when they're quarantined, they're taking up one of them ponds until I'm able to actually move them on to the dealers. Are the dealers heated? you know, not all of them are. So it's had to been a cultural change to educate dealers more in order to get their system set up to be able to take advantage of these stocks at the right times as well.
Which then takes more investment.
To get the whole chain moving properly, it's really not just a case of, you know,
order a box of fish and it turns up.
yeah, many, you know, hopefully, well, it will happen, you know, next year they'll be seeing Shinoda Utsuris all about everywhere, the little ones. Great, fantastic, you know, that's what you want to know, but the work actually behind the scenes getting that to pull off so our country can have the share of them, no easy task. It's and this is a problem that's not going to change, it's only going to get worse because, you know, more countries, Vietnam's been one just of late that really seems to come to the table and they're buying crazy amounts of fish. Crazy amounts.
Is it fair to say that, there's no priority put in place, it's literally supply and demand at the moment?
It depends where it is. There's some breeders, and this is where, you know, relationships do come into it to some degree. You know, there are some breeders where I haven't got those pressures, but a lot, like Shinoda being one of them, you know, you've got to play with the rules.
Yeah.
Aoki is another one, you know, huge demand for what that guy's doing, but it's he really does dictate. You sort of play the game or don't get it, because from his side, I think it doesn't matter because there's someone else. There's a massive queue behind me, waiting for their chance.
Funny you should mention that, because what are we, a couple of days before Christmas, and there's a rather decent sized shipment on its way to us as we speak.
Yeah. Full of that guy's fish. Yeah, happy days. That's going to be fun.
But obviously, it's time, it's pressure, it's forcing the issue a little bit.
Lot, yeah, behind the scenes, and it's the sheer, you know, at the minute I can't get out there, haven't been the same, so communication's a bit more difficult, and it's a lot of work to and fro, big risk, big commitments. It's a lot, but worth it when it comes off.
Do you think that the end user, so obviously hobbyists, are they going to notice much of a difference in terms of supply, mixes, prices this coming season?
I don't think so. Air freight's been holding out quite well despite the pandemic, to be fair. This is probably, this sort of autumn period has been the worst that I've sort of known for sort of rates going up a little bit, but that's actually a fascinating point. You know, you talk about the breeders and some of the past conversation we've just had, and you know, despite all this demand that they've got, and yes, they get a bit more uppity about dictating when needs to be shipped and who gets what, the prices of the fish in Japan barely ever change. You know, we think of probably sort of more Western mentality towards pricing. If they had that much demand, they'd probably be shunting them prices up a fair bit. And these guys, I'm dealing with breeders now whose price for their sort of general Tosai mix is the same as it was 10 or 15 years ago. Yeah. Every year it's the same thing.
When you look at the lists, you can almost...
Got my mix, I've got my price, and I just think, you know, wow.
You know, it's external factors. Yen exchange rate.
Yeah. They're
shipping,
the big bits.
other, you know, related costs.
Yeah.
And obviously, once it comes back to the UK, you add VAT onto it. It makes your final
there's
price.
A lot, but that's, again, just looking at it objectively, it's happening across everything.
Yeah.
You know, and koi, I think actually has probably fared a lot better than other general commodities and all that type of stuff. It's not doing too bad, really.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of the industries in the trade, regular hikes of between 10, sort of 15% on dry goods.
Look at the product side and stuff.
You know,
like
you
that.
apply that to a £500 fish, significant jump, you know.
Yeah.
So, well, that's kind of reassuring to hear. I'm sure people at home will hopefully it'll be reflected in the dealerships around the UK.
Yeah, for sure. Again, you know, you say it, the dealers, the whole hobby's screwed without the dealers.
Yeah.
You know, it's something I always take a really strong sort of position and stance on, because it literally, there's such a huge part of everybody's hobby. Regardless of your opinion on them, the whole operation would just crumble. You know, because you even look at just that one fish purchase you make, you know, even if it's on a higher level is probably a better example here, you know, because there's constantly hobbyists trying to bypass and think they can do it, you know, directly on their own. But if you look at just the shipping logistics of getting them out of Japan, you know, that's all great. You
do it on your own with
get
one
your
box.
fish at that, but you try doing that with one box and ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch. Just the whole thing doesn't work. Even from my perspective, you know, people might wonder why, because with how active we've been just of late, you know, more and more people seeing what we do here, you know, a constant question that sort of gets asked is, you know, can we buy direct? Can we buy direct? Have we got to buy through dealers? Yes, you have, and that will never change for me, because I look at how I operate, you know, as a company and a very active fish farm. I physically couldn't do it if I had the sort of foot flow through a shop like a typical shop gets, or all that time for giving up for customers, managing the relationships. I'd do a shocking job of it, to be honest, because I just wouldn't have the time to think, you know, even having now, you know, the time to deal with all the clients that we've got and do it to the standard I expect. I like to enhance the hobby or the, you know, whatever it is I'm doing. So my customers, I like to enhance their experience of being a koi dealer, being a koi shop. Likewise, I know a lot of them guys do enhance the hobby of their customers, the hobbyists. I couldn't do it. I couldn't give people the time, the attention. You know, it's even if we get a random inquiry from someone at minute, it can quite easily get missed with the amount going on, and it's just not acceptable. So without the dealers in my scenario, I just wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't have the time to dedicate to raising the fish how we do or looking after the fish how we do, because more resources would have to go to spending time with customers, and the amount of, again, it's on topic, I have to spend sourcing fish and getting hold of the stock and communicating with breeders and organising shipments. Again, if we was talking, we're dealing with, you know, how many customers you'd have to deal with in a day typically. It just makes it impossible to get anything else done. So I'm really grateful of that position I've got, but it allows me to be honest, to be as good as I am with all the other stuff, because I've got the time to spend on it, and the business is built around that model. So without the dealers doing their bit in it all, it'd just crumble. So I think in a lot of scenarios for me, it gets missed of just how important they are in the whole chain and the process. And I see a lot of them, how far they're prepared to go for the customers to help them out, especially when when you build that relationship with them and they feel it, they'll go to the ends of the earth. And they're great people. There's a lot of great completely. I mean, I look at, you know, consider dealers again on the most craziest koi keepers, because they decide to make that step and try and make it into a business, and it's a tough old life. You know, it's really not as glamorous. I think we might have touched on this at some point with something as people seem to think it is. It
sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But it's
love koi,
it's tough.
go and buy koi, sell koi, make loads of money. But obviously,
it's that last bit that is the struggle, to be honest.
It's a competitive industry. There's I think the UK's. I was talking to a Dutch dealer, and he was sort of saying, you know, how many dealers are there in the UK? Obviously, when I gave him the actual specs, because I had the figures to hand at the time, he was like, no way. I was like, yeah. He was like, in Holland, you more almost have like designated centres for koi. And then it's a bit more of a hub. Like, obviously there is competition over there. But obviously in England, it's sort of like, there's quite a lot of choice, and no doubt there are, like you do get with any industry, some that are better than others, some that are worse than others, some where someone's had a disgruntled or a bad experience. But I'll never forget a customer years ago. It's just a bit of an anecdote that I'll share with you, and he come in, you know, when you can just tell that someone's got the ump before you even started talking to him. How much is that one? Told him the price. Too much. How much is that one? Told him the price. That's too. Oh, you taking the piss, mate? And not really. No, that's the price. Obviously, thanks for your thoughts, but if you don't want to buy them, you don't want to buy them. Oh, you dealers are nothing but crooks. Okay, thanks very much. You've just come to my place of work and insulted me.
Called me a crook.
And as he walked off, he was like, "Here, come and have a look at my new car." And I thought, all right, I just been called a crook. Went out, presses his fob thing, Ferrari starts lighting up. And I'm sat there thinking, you know, at the time I was
Yeah.
I was stressing because I had an MOT due on my car.
Yeah.
And he sat there
Yeah,
calling
Ace.
me a crook. I was like,
Yeah.
who are you ripping off to be able to afford
Yeah.
that for? And I'm thinking, you know, it is. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's if you've got ways of making decent money and buying yourself a Ferrari, hats off to you. Fair play.
Fair play. But he's had to make some money on someone somewhere to buy it.
But this is the irony. I was sort of sat there thinking something's not right here.
No.
But anyway, yeah, it was just a little passing
tough
story.
one, but you know, big appreciation really to all them guys out there doing it, because I've lived it. I've lived this job on literally every level. I've been a dealer. I'm now a wholesaler. Through my company in Japan, I've been an exporter there. There's not one bit of it I've not touched, and yeah, it's a slog. But the dealers are the real, you know, the customer facing side, and yeah, hats off to them.
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of these guys that you know, they are small businesses at the end of the day,
really small,
and it's always worth if you don't if you want to be. I know a lot of people do like to be loyal to their dealers as well, but sometimes when they just go, I can't get what I want from them.
Yeah.
It's worth opening up that dialogue with them, because I think you'd be surprised what doors could be opened.
Yeah. And that's always, obviously, it's on. This is also my bit, how I look at it. It's my job to, you know, enhance the experience for my dealers and make the whole process as enjoyable as possible for them. Likewise, I believe it's the dealer's responsibility to enhance the experience of the customers they're dealing with. And if they do that successfully, you know, happy days. I think you mutually build that bond. Those out there that don't go to them efforts, you know, fair play. They're sort of creating their own thing, but it's just, I think it's just appreciation for what the guys do, and yeah, just realise that there'd be no hobby without them.
It might, yeah.
That's that one, my opinion on it.
If you get, you know, a spare hour over the Christmas period, drop in, see your local dealer, have a chat.
Yeah, this is it. Especially this time of year, it can be a real slog for a lot of them. Not seeing anybody, they think everybody's disappeared. A lot of them be grateful. Just, I know a lot of my customers' kettle's always on.
Yeah.
You know, nip in, seat fish, have a quick chat, and yeah, probably lift their day up a little bit.
Oddly enough, that's our final topic of discussion is winter period for hobbyists.
Yes.
A lot of people go, covers on, or it's cold, forget about it, worry about it in spring. I always look at, maybe it's me just being a bit weird, but I always looked at winter as a time to kind of take stock of the hobby and where I'm at. Create that little dream idea, or if I had if I had saved up a couple of grand, or if I had 500 quid and I could sort of do this, or you have got more time with the dealers this time of year. Go and chew their ear off about a project that you've got in mind, or
absolutely.
There's no better time to do it, because I guarantee you, when summer comes along, as much as they're going to want to give you time, it's when the sun shines, they've got to make hay.
In the thick of it, aren't they?
Yeah, it's difficult, but there's no better time than this time of year. Or give them your wish list for next year, so they can start working on it. If you're looking for that special golden corn.
Absolutely.
Make sure that the dealer's aware of it, and they can start preparing and getting an idea of what you're after. So don't switch off too much, guys, in the winter, because it is a 12-month-a-year hobby.
It is. There's people changing that anyway, isn't there? I mean, heating, there's becoming more efficient heating. You're more familiar with that side of stuff, with the air source heat pumps and stuff like that, but there's a lot happening this time of year that you can miss out on. If you sort of switched off to it all. But I mean, more growing on ponds that are kept sort of indoors. There's more people actually building the ponds indoors as well, from what I've seen, and bearing that in mind. But with the changing dynamic I spoke about with the new fish, if you actually pay attention, more and more dealers are offering overwintering services as well.
And spreading payments as well.
And even free overwintering, which is fair play again for doing that, because there is costs associated with it. But it allows you to take advantage of all the new fish that do come into the market at this time of year and take away any risk for you if you're not heated. And again, just another a great service, and it's a way of enhancing the hobby for people. So yeah, winter, yeah, it's even for, I mean, it's becoming one of my busiest times of year, you know, certainly from a actual business perspective. It's really, the speed never drops off. It seems to ramp up more this time of year as well, with everything happening and going on with the tow side. But for me, having the heating system up here, certainly in the main fish houses, has been a game changer, because now I'm, you know, raising fish constantly. It just takes away the barriers, and you know, simple little things, if you can do it, you know, you might be able to fit a little sort of handyman greenhouse over your pond. You could pick them up for not a lot of money, and give you that insulation. You can go in and enjoy your fish, you know, more of the time. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of people, fish are their pride and joy. It's just a small enhancement, isn't it, that can make a big difference. So.
Yeah, completely. And I think you've got to be mindful as well, even to be honest, at the sort of more beginner end of the market as well. You know, you can't actually switch off from your fish in winter. There's another big thing to consider. You know, they still need checking daily. You've got to keep your eye on everything that's going on, because if you don't, you're going to walk into a disaster at some point. So yeah, it's not like you can switch off. It's just, I think subconsciously that does happen a bit. But when we talk about, you know, being really successful at koi keeping, and when you're on about raising koi, winter's a key part of all the setup for the following growing season. If you come out having a rough winter into spring and a rocky spring period, you're going to be chasing your tail from day one moving into summer, and probably miss out valuable weeks or even months of that summer period, which God knows, you know, we never know how long it's going to be in UK. So yeah, the more sort of continuity and stability you can give them through the winter period, the more successful that's going to be moving forward.
This is probably more a beginner's level sort of area, but I'll never forget a couple of years ago, I had a customer come to me in spring, and everyone has that, spring's the most dangerous time of year. Okay, fair enough. The guy had a problem, run me through what happened. Well, my mate told me to stop feeding the fish at the end of September because it gets cold. Yeah. Right, okay. When was the pond set up? This year, right? How big are the fish? All small fish. You know, quite happy with himself. Bought them in August. Right, okay. We're in March now. End of March. They don't look good, Chris. No. I was like, well, they've now gone 6 or 7 months with no food in a new pond where there's no real ecosystem. I'm sure you wouldn't feel that good, mate, if you went. So I'm a big advocate of, you know, the fish will obviously adjust your diet, feed on a more appropriate winter-based diet. Everyone's got their own opinion on that, but obviously the general consensus is a wheat germ-based diet or a lower protein, more digestible diet in winter. The fish will dictate as and when they're interested in the food.
Completely.
And if they are moving around, they need to burn energy. Where do they get that energy from? Food source. Larger fish, there's a little bit more of a longer window without feeding.
A bit more play.
Because they have more reserves. But certainly if you're getting into this hobby, please, please, please don't stop feeding your fish. By all means, reduce the feed. The fish will become less active as it gets cooler, naturally being cold-blooded. But yeah, there's a good piece in one of these issues, actually. I'll try and get it up on the screen, which article it is, for Beginner's Guide to overwintering. So yeah, don't switch off over winter, would probably be my comment.
And on that food topic, I'm a big advocate. If you sort of, you know, wondering what food to pick, fat content is the one for me. You know, that seems to get completely missed when it's thing, but fat has a certain sort of melting point, if you like, and obviously bearing in mind if it's a pond's unheated, the fish's body temperature is naturally going to be within a couple of degrees of your ambient water temperature. So you know, if you sort of in a process where it's the fat's too high, it's just going to go in and sit there and do nothing, and that's dangerous.
Yeah.
So if you're really not sure what to pick, just flick the packet around and look for the lowest fat content food you can find, and feed on demand.
In a nutshell, I think it's that goes back years. That does it? I don't know. Again, I don't know whoever really came up with that.
What's
Don't
that?
feed your fish in winter.
No, it's
think maybe
off on another tangent here.
It's
actually
growing arms and legs, isn't
it's
it?
a bit of a technique that can be used. A lot of breeders don't actually feed the fish from harvest. So you're talking October through to following spring in April. But you've got a different scenario and setup here. This was typically, bearing in mind a lot of breeders aren't very good at keeping fish indoors in concrete ponds. Filtration is actually not that smart. Some of them don't have heating systems or don't want to pay the cost for the heating systems indoors, and obviously it's pretty cold in Niigata, so the water gets pretty bitey. So the same applies there, you know, if fish are all sat down on bottom, don't go chucking food on top, because that's absolutely pointless. So there's that element, and some people do believe that it's actually a good setup to get the fish ready for the spring the following season. Now, it is a technique you can use to control body, if you like, but those that are using a sort of, you know, starvation tactic, if you like, is mainly because them fish coming out of harvest through the professional level of care they've had, the typical thing is they build the body up to the absolute maximum and probably a little bit beyond it during the feeding in the mud pond. And then there is typically, with a lot of breeders, an element of needing to lose a little bit.
Yeah, conditioning.
So that's where the winter period can come in on that. But there's many ways of doing that. But sometimes, yes, withdrawing food a little bit at certain periods is the time to do it. But yeah, these long drawn out periods, a lot of it is more. It did come from Japan, because it's something that, let's say, breeders do. But a lot of them that are doing it in that way, it's through necessity, because their filters and their pond setup can't handle food being put into the pond, so they just leave it.
I mean, I think I was more referring to small fish.
Yeah.
Who perhaps physically haven't got the reserves.
Yeah, which when you consider them, breeders are flat out on food with them constantly, because they need to be to get the most out of them. But yeah, that technique with the bigger fish, like I say, it comes through. But what it comes off the back of is a really strong summer season.
Yeah,
where reserves and everything's built up to maximum. You know, if you're coming off the back of an average mediocre season and they haven't got that, it's just going to deteriorate rapidly. So,
and then obviously that's probably where springtime becomes issues, because the fish are
completely
fairly weak, and then the environment kicks in, and
completely
bit of a perfect storm.
Yeah, happy days.
But yeah, on that note, unless you want to add anything or
no,
moan about anything else,
I'm about all talked out. I'm sure there'll be something to talk about again soon. But watch out, because I think we're going to be starting some live content soon enough. So please pay attention to what we're doing out on social media and YouTube, and be quite interesting, because we're going to look to get you guys involved as well. So look out for that.
Yeah, and again, quick plug: if you like the content, please support us with the magazine. Link is on the screen. So have a great Christmas. Thanks for everyone who's watching and has supported Koi Talk this year. It's been a great start to what hopefully will be a long journey. So
happy days.
Yeah, enjoy your family, chill out, and we'll catch you in the new year.
Yeah, thanks for watching.